I would like to welcome all the way from Whangarei, multi-talented, gluten-free, vegan, nutrient-dense, all food focus, community spirit, all that.
All that.
All that.
And then some.
Be prepared to be inspired, educated, entertained and uplifted by Zee Tana.
Thanks, Liz. Cheers for that. Ngami ka koutou katoa. No mai haere mai mo tēnei Vegan Expo kei Whangarei 2019. Welcome everyone. Good morning and welcome to Whangarei Vegan Expo 2019. And thank you for coming along for my little workshop this morning. My name is Zee Tana, as Liz mentioned. I'm the Kaiako and plant chef for Palate Wholesome Collective on John Street. We've been located on John Street for the last 7 months now in a premise. Prior to that, we were just doing school lunches and deliveries around Whangarei for the last year. So it's nice to finally have a little home of our own here in our centre of our town. Palate Wholesome Collective is a gluten-free and vegan establishment. We have minimal refined sugars. We only use coconut sugars and date caramel, date paste, etc. All natural products, and try and get as organic products as we can from local suppliers here in Whangarei, because we have such an array of them. So this morning, our demo, we're going to be making two things, and the name of our demo is Easy Gluten-Free and Vegan Brunch idea, or breakfast, lunch, brunch, same thing. So you can have them any time before 12 if you want. If not, then it's not brunch, not the brunch. So we're going to do we've got some seasonal veg here today that I've got from the markets. We've got some, come on in guys, take a seat. We've only just started, so you're all good. So we've got a lot of greens is what I'm focusing on today in making our fritter. So we've got some leek, some broth, some spring onions out of their garden. We've also got some garlic leaves or garlic greens as well. I don't know if anyone's used those very much, but they're really punchy, really strong. If you want, I can pass a leaf around. You probably don't want to handle it too much because they do get a bit smelly. We won't use that one obviously after everyone's finger touched it. But really pungent, but you don't get the after effect of the garlic on your breath or sitting in your tummy. And you don't get any of that reflux that garlic normally gives you. So it's a lot easier to use, a lot lighter. And normally we throw these in the bin. That's waste, usually waste product. We've also got some curly kale, some carbonero, and also some asparagus because it's in the season. So we're going to make a fritter out of those greens, and then we're going to make a sweet waffle out of some date caramel, some nuts and seeds, some bananas, and also, hey guys, come on in. Cool. So we'll crack on to getting it done. So everything that we'll be doing is gluten-free, as I mentioned before, because in our store we're all gluten-free and vegan. We are a small minority within the vegan community, and it's quite funny. I just realised last night, after spending some time with the other speakers for the speakers' dinner, that there's so many subgroups within the vegan community. You know, we just think we're all vegan, that's it. You know, it's us and then the others. And it's even more so defined within our own community of vegans. And that's oil-free vegans, that's gluten-free vegans, that's vegans that only specifically eat fruits or veg, or the raw vegans as well. So there's a massive array in this little whare of ours of gluten-free, of veganism. And the world's starting to take note of that as well. And you can see in the changes with our world as well that people are starting to become a lot more conscious, people awake or woke. But we're starting to become a lot more conscious about what we consume and what we put into our system. And that's where these definitions start to take place, where people don't want to have oil or they don't want to eat gluten. For Polynesians, for Māoris more specifically, we've not had a lot of gluten in our diet in over the last 200 years, that's the only amount of time that we've really been exposed to gluten. We normally eat things like starches from kumara, or things like, we may have got some taro and other starches like that, but we've never really been introduced to gluten. So gluten for Polynesians, and for New Zealanders as well. I can see that a lot of Kiwis have started to get celiac disease. A lot of children are starting to become a lot more allergic to glutens or the proteins of glutens, proline and glutamine. And I can see that we're all starting to move to a better space, and hopefully our store, Palate, Wholesome Collective, and Power Plant is also gluten-free and vegan. Hopefully we can influence our community here in Whangarei to start making those changes, because it is affordable to make that transition. I know a lot of people say, oh, gluten-free is so expensive, you can't just buy a bag of white flour for $1, $2, you know, it costs a little bit more, so you've got to buy a variety of flours to meet the one component that you would from white flour. Hey guys, come on in, we've only just started. Find your seat, no worries. And as well as that, a lot of people say that veganism is expensive. How are you vegan? You know, I can't afford to be vegan. Never happened for me. When in actual fact, if we started looking at growing our own veg, if we started caring a lot more about the foods that we're consuming or the foods that we're growing, instead of just going to the supermarket and expecting it to be there. I find with supermarkets, you know, you get oranges all year round. Is that not weird to anyone else? Why? You know, the seasons don't work like that. That oranges should only come when they're actually meant to be coming in your summer times or spring times, instead of coming all year round. It's strange to think that we have such an abundance like that. And that abundance shows in a lot of our, unfortunately, the stats that we have with our national health stats, especially for Polynesians again, and especially for Northmen. We have some of the highest stats for colon cancer, bowel cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. All of these things are preventable. And that just comes down to our consumption, what we're doing, what we're eating, how we're fueling our system. And I feel like people are starting to take note of that, and they're starting to get an idea of either growing their own stuff, sourcing it organically, going to the markets in the morning, spending some time getting to know the markets and the suppliers, and then getting their produce from them, as opposed to just settling for what the supermarket can offer you all year round. You know, if you see something all year round, you've got to question it. Why is it all year round? How have we got it all year round? Our bodies don't even react the right way to foods that we get. If it's winter and we're eating summertime foods, it doesn't match the climate, it doesn't match our biome, our biome in our stomach, and our bacteria doesn't understand why are we eating all these high fructose or citrus fruits in the winter time. So it's about trying to transition ourselves back to eating seasonably, growing ourselves, meeting our market suppliers, and trying to encourage our friends and family through leading by example to eat a better way. Cool. All right, now that we've got all that fancy business done, let's get some cooking. So we'll start by, I'll just let you know our ingredients. So as I mentioned, because it's gluten-free, you do have to have a variety of flours to kind of meet your standard white flour. Hey guys, come on in, find your seat, no worries. So this flour here is gluten-free flour. Sounds a bit silly, where do you get gluten-free flour from? But it's a combination, of potato starch, some rice flour, as well as some xanthan gum. And then we have just plain rice flour and some chana flour or chickpea flour. So the chickpea flour helps to create the body of the bread or fritter or the waffle. These two recipes are exactly the same base recipe. So in the title, Easy Gluten-Free Vegan Brunch, it's easy because you're literally making one batch and then splitting it out, adding additional things to it to then make it either sweeter or more savory. So it's very versatile, and the fact that we're able to use it in completely different fashions, like on a press or in a fry pan to make fritters, or in the waffle line to make waffles either sweet or savory. So it makes it really easy to be able to do that. And if you don't have a waffle line or a press or a fry pan, then you can pop it into a muffin tray or into the oven, and you can bake it, and it'll still come up an amazing bread. So either which way, this base recipe, which I'll send you at the end of this, at the end of the workshop, probably not directly after the workshop, but after we finish today, I'll send through some information to you so that if you want any of the recipes, you can have those available to you. And if you have any questions as well outside of here, do get in contact and I'll be able to walk you through anything. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get my helper Dana in. Yay! Cool. So you can do our sweet waffles and I'll do our savoury fritter. So we're going to start with our flours. So as we mentioned before, exactly the same for both. And then once we get to the base and the base is complete, we can then start doing the savoury option and the sweet option. So with that, we want 1 cup, so that's a half a cup measure. So 1 cup of each in each bowl of both of those. So that there is the gluten-free flour. So gluten-free flour is pretty affordable. You can get gluten-free flour from Benin. You can get rice flour from Benin, as well as that chana or chickpea flour. Rice flour for, say, a container about that size, you'd only be paying about 60 cents, if that, less, 50 cents. And same for the gluten-free flour is a little bit more expensive. That's probably about $1 there. And then the chana flour is even cheaper. That's about 25 cents for that there. So you do want to have a combination of all three. The rice flour provides all of the actual body itself. The chana flour provides drying it out, making it more bready. And then the gluten-free flour mixed with the potato starch, because it has potato starch and xanthan gum, gives it that balance that you'd expect from any form of bread or any oil you're normally using, say like a self-raising flour or a sand flour. If you have any questions, do just pop your hand up or just shout out. It's all interactive here.
Do you use brown rice?
Oh, and then John, of course you have to jump in straight away. Yes, brown rice flour is fine. The only thing I find with brown rice flour is it can end up being quite gritty. So if you only use something like a brown rice flour, do pop it into your mix, and then if you're adding your liquids, add your liquids and leave it for at least about an hour, because that way it helps all of the sugars in the brown rice flour as well as the grittiness to absorb into the liquid that you've got. You don't end up with that grittiness afterwards. Once
I might do that.
Okay, awesome. And that's just half a cup each of that. While you're doing that, I will start on our veg, unless someone else wants to. So I'll do it.
What about buckwheat flour? Do you use buckwheat flour?
Buckwheat flour is fantastic to use. It's super high in fiber, but the only thing I find with buckwheat flour is it has a short life. So you'll notice if you cook with buckwheat flour and it's sour, it's probably already come to its rancidity, or it's close to. So it's a very short lifespan. So you want to make sure that, even it sounds strange to eat the flour raw, but have a taste of it first. And if it tastes sour, it's probably no good. But otherwise, if you are using like a better, more fresh buckwheat flour, then you won't really get much of that taste. Same as chickpea flour as well. It can also be quite rancid if you're not careful with it. So do just have a taste or a smell, and you smell it straight away. Great, cool. Okay, so we wanted to add now to that. We've got some flax seeds here. So flax seeds work so flax seeds are hydrophilic, which means that they absorb their mass of about up to 15% in water. So anytime it's added to water, the water itself will create mucilaginous around it, which is like a slime, and it's kind of like egg yolk, if you expect to know what that feels like. That's what this will become. So this is our egg yolk pretty much, or our egg in general, so we're using that instead. So we'll pop about a tablespoon in each, and that helps more with binding, and helps as well so that when you do go to actually cook it, and it is cooked, it's not going to go dry straight away. Instead, it's going to be a little bit softer because you've got that egg replacement style. Also, if you feel like you're a bit sluggish in your tummy, you're a bit run down, a great way to help to clear your colon, to help clear your digestive tract, is by having things like flax seeds. Flax seeds are so cheap. You can get a packet of 500 grams for about $4 from the supermarket or from Benin, either. I would probably, in this instance for cooking, you don't really need to crush them up. If you're going to be consuming it yourself though and wanting to clear yourself, blend it up in your blender or crush it up, because otherwise they'll just come out the same way they've gone in. They will help you because of the mucilaginous, because it's hydrophilic, but it won't do as good a work unless it was actually blended up or into a meal. So you can buy the meal as well separate. It costs you about an extra $1. There's no point in doing it. Do it yourself. It's easier. Put your love into it. Also, chia seeds work the same way. They're kind of along the same lines, and golden flax. Now that we've got those added, we can start adding our baking powder and baking soda. That's these ones.
What's the difference?
Sorry?
I often wonder what's the difference in how it works.
So baking soda itself, once you add any citrus or acidity to that, that will just create more bubbles, as you can expect, and that helps with lift. Whereas baking powder actually just forces it to rise as well. So a combination of the two, and that stops things from being quite bitter as well. It takes away a lot of bitterness. Cool. So we'll add those. So tablespoon, actually teaspoon maybe on this, or half. We'll just use half of it. Cool. And some salt, or do sweetness. Some salt, so this is Himalayan salt. Anyone that is still using iodized salt, your standard table salt, I would definitely recommend coming away from that. It's very affordable to buy the Himalayan salt. It's better for you. Your body recognizes it, understands it, and knows how to process it properly. And then as well as that, past the waste. If you're using the standard table salt, our bodies still don't really understand how to process it properly, and it's fortified as well. So it has been iodized, which is great, but you can get better iodization from other products instead of just using the standard bleach salt. It's not the best for us. I recommend definitely coming away from that if you are still currently using that. It's affordable to just go out and get the Himalayan pink salt. It's better for us. Cool. Okay, so we've got some flavors here. So this is a herb mix of thyme, dill, a little bit of coriander, and I think we put cola in there too, so dry cola. So it has a little bit of pepperiness. So we'll put just a tablespoon of that in. And then we can add liquid. So if you want, you can add water. Water's fine to use with this mix. It still works perfectly fine. Or if you don't want to use water, you can use something like a plant milk, like soy milk, or almond milk, cashew milk. For this example, we'll use water because we want it to be easy and affordable. So we'll just pop that in. So we'll just add. It's 1 cup. And if you just want to stir it around. And you can use the green of the leaf. Does anyone not use the green of the leaf? Do they throw that out? Normally we throw it out. But if you're cutting it fine enough, or you're massaging it after you've cut it, then that will help your body to be able to break it down and process a lot easier. Things like kale, especially, so that's the habanero, and this is the curly kale. Kale especially, you shouldn't necessarily eat raw unless you're cutting it really, really fine. Or if you are having it chunky, then making sure you're massaging all of the chlorophyll to break it up. Because otherwise your body, as soon as you eat that, it sits in your tummy, your body doesn't quite recognize how to break it down because it is quite a hearty, strong, leafy green. Then what it will do is it will just sit and start to ferment, and your body doesn't really know what to do with that. So it can start to cause you a little bit of tummy problems. But if you're cutting it really fine, massaging it with some oil, or if not oil, just salt and lemon juice, then it's perfectly fine to eat. And then you get a lot more. The lemon juice actually companions with this and helps your enzymes to break it down and recognize what it is. Cool, I know what this is. I can work with this, break it down easy. Otherwise, the other way to do it is just to steam it or blanch it for about 2 or 3 seconds in some hot water and then some cold. Or just give it a nice fry off. They go really well fried, or just in the oven as crisp as chips. Yes, absolutely.
Is that blending it up in your smoothies?
Hey guys, come on in. Hello. Glad to see. Blending up in smoothies? Yeah, so you just want to be able to break it down to the point where it's not like that, where your body's still trying to figure out, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't understand how to break that down. It needs to be at least massaged to break up the chlorophylls to help you to break it down easier in your system. If you're blending it in the smoothie, perfect, awesome. You're going to get all of the nutrient value out of it straight away, and the enzymes to understand how to break it too. Good. So we'll just put a little bit of some of the kale. Kale's such an easy veg to grow as well in your own garden. So if you did decide to want to look at starting out with gardening, have a look at doing something like kale, leek, some spring onions. Spring onions are great because as soon as you've chopped off the portion you no longer want, which is usually that, we throw it in the bin, gone, what a waste. You can pop that straight into a little bit of water, leave that for a night, straight into your garden again. That'll start regrowing from the middle of the shoot out again, and it continues to do so. And it doesn't lose its nutrient value as well. Like most things, when you replant them again, they'll eventually lose a lot of their nutrient value, but if you pop that back into the soil, as long as the soil is good. Yeah. So I mean, you can still use all of that if you wanted to. I'd probably recommend not using any of the root system, just in case there's any dirt sitting in there. That can give you a bit of a funny tummy too. But as long as you've got that portion there, you should be able to start growing another load. So, I mean, it's all about sustainability. We don't need to be throwing away so much stuff when really we could be regrowing it straight out of its own, what we'd call garbage. Cool, so just a little bit of veg for you. While you're doing that, with the, oh, that one's a bit better.
Yeah.
So with the sweet one, so we've got our two batches here now. That's what they look like there. So there's still quite a thick mix, but what we'll add to this now is some of the vinegar. And the vinegar will help it to, it'll start activating the baking powder and the baking soda, so you'll see it double in size, a lot more fluffy. It means it's going to be exactly the same when we put into the waffle iron on top of the grill, which I'm just going to pop on now and get us ready for that. Again, as I mentioned, if you don't have a grill or a waffle iron, don't worry about it. You can use the fry pan, you can pop it in the oven, you can put the same mix into the muffin tray. Perfect. And we will add our vinegar now. So this is just standard apple cider vinegar. The great thing about apple cider vinegar is it helps you to set up your alkaline system and your digestive tract as like the first thing in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, if you had just a little shot of it or half of a shot, along with water, I'd probably recommend adding water to it, because if you're just having it straight up, it can actually start to affect your teeth, so you don't really want to do that. So have a shot of that, brush your teeth straight after, and that will help to start alkalining your system, getting your digestive system ready for the day. If not that, then you can use things like lemons, probably not oranges, just because oranges are more high in fructose and sugars than they are in acidity, and you want a lot more acidity in your system to help it start to activate for your day. So we will put... Just put a tablespoon in each. We'll just put it over. And don't worry too much that we are putting this into the sweet one, because with the sweet one, that will just completely disappear, the actual acid. So to the sweet one as well, we'll add some seeds. So this is a seed mix. That's sesame, some pumpkin seed, some sunflower seed, and also our flax seed that we spoke about earlier. Hey guys, how are you? There's some more seats just here if you want to come have a seat. There you go, come and have a seat.
They semi-blended.
No, they are blended obviously, yeah, but they're not been blended up. So to that, I'm not going to add any sugar as well, we're just going to add some date caramel. So the date caramel here contains dates, some water, a little bit of soy, and some coconut oil, some salt, and that's it. If you wanted to change this to a more chocolatey flavour, you can then add some raw cacao to this direct mix, and that'll make a complete chocolate sauce. And all natural fructose as well, and easy to use. So we'll squeeze that on and then give it a good whack. Give that a mix up.
Was that soy milk?
Soy milk, yeah, just a touch. But if you don't want to use soy milk, you can opt that out and just use water and blend it through with water if you need. So with the fritters, our company, Wholesome Collective, won the best fritter this year at Fritter Festival. Oh, no, sorry, not best. The People's Choice Award for Fritter Festival this year, with a gluten-free and vegan fritter, up against many meat fritters, up against many seafood fritters, So we were so grateful that the attendees that came along to Fritter Festival, which were over 8,500 people, chose our fritter as what they thought was their choice. So hopefully we take that out again next year. This is not the fritter because I wouldn't give that secret away. Cool. So we've got some garlic greens to go into, and then just some asparagus. So with asparagus, I'm not sure if you have it very often, but a lot of people worry that when you've had asparagus, you get that smelly wee smell. The only reason that's happening is because it's helping to process your bladder, get a lot of the free radicals or anything excess that's in your bladder that's not being processed normally. It'll help to flush a lot of that out. So that's why you get that smell. So don't worry too much. It's great for you. You should be eating more of them, especially because they're seasonal. And they're easy again to grow these too. So with these, you just normally snap wherever it wants to break. Don't worry about cutting it, just snap it wherever it will naturally break. And then get rid of that part there, because that part will normally be quite stalky and hard, and you don't want to be eating that, it's gross. Even in your smoothie, you don't want that. You'll end up with lots of fibrous bits in there. Cool, so we can probably start with that one and pop it into the iron. That's okay, come on down. Just put it in. So that is rice bran oil. Be real considerate to the oils that you're using as well. I mean, I know the majority of oils that we use nowadays are still carcinogenic regardless of whether they're olive oil or otherwise. Our body doesn't know how to understand them, but it is okay for us to have them in minimal amounts. And especially if you're using things like rice bran oil, if you're using olive oils as well. But I'd probably stay very clear away from canola oils or vegetable oils. It makes you question yourself, like, what vegetable do you get oil from? I can't consider or think of any that I know I'd want to use unless it's the seeds, but I'd stay away if you can from any vegetable oils, and definitely canola oil. They're no good for us, and we should definitely not be consuming them. Okay, so now that's ready. I'll just pop some in. You can use that if you like. Probably just two of those. The only thing with that, the way that we've cut the banana might actually get a bit stuck in the grids, but that's cool.
I didn't really see
It's forgiving. It's really forgiving.
I didn't really see what you did to the banana, so they're just
It's just chunks. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So it's not meshed
with what we had, we've just done it that way, so that's fine. But otherwise, normally, if you wanted to, you can mash it with a fork and then add it to the mix, or blend it up and add it. With that as well, with those bases, as we mentioned, you can do anything you like with them. So it doesn't necessarily have to be what we're doing today. If you had berries spare, if it was mandarin season, or if it was pear season, you can use any of those fruits that you have at home. Yeah, chuck it down. Probably a stick, but that's okay. It's what it is. You get the idea. And as we mentioned, it's really forgiving. So if it does stick, we can just add a little bit more touches around and it'll eventually come white. Just go to flip. Cool. Okay, and I'll just finish off this one here. Do we have any questions anyway?
We came here a little bit late. Is there any way we can find the recipe somewhere?
No, sorry, you're late. No, I'm kidding. Yes, before we finish up, I'll quickly just run and grab a notepad and pen. Actually, no, I've got one here. And I'll grab everyone's email addresses if you are wanting to have any of the recipes. So the recipes that we'll be covering are the base for both, the savoury and the sweet. And then I'll also give you the date caramel and the secret aioli mix. But you just can't tell anyone.
I'm never going to if I can make it away.
Cool, so I'll leave this at the end of the table here. And as you go past, don't forget to pop your email address if you are wanting to have any of those recipes. Straight in.
Where do you think the garlic from?
So these are actually from a friend of mine who grows I think it's called mammoth garlic, which are the huge bulbs, really big bulbs of garlic, and they're beautiful. They're real distinct flavour to them. They're not as strong as the standard garlic. They're softer and sweeter.
Elephant garlic.
Elephant garlic, sorry, that's it.
You can't eat elephant garlic if it's vegan.
Yeah, but if
You can't.
Well, elephants come in elephants.
Oh, obviously, no, you can't eat elephants, that's true. Thanks for that insight, John. I'm glad you came today. Yeah. Always number one support. Cool, and we've got some asparagus going in. I mean, if you're just wanting to make it really simple, I'd probably just go for making it with some onions, some leek, and if you wanted to, you can just add things like lentils or chickpeas. I brought some chickpeas to pop some in, but I thought we don't need to use it. We've got enough stuff to pop in there anyway. Cool. So that's our mix.
Are you quite comfortable using the tin chickpeas and?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind using the tinned ones. I mean, they are certified organic, and as far as I know, I mean, the packaging itself, they don't just spray in the internal space before they pop it in. But yeah, if you want to make it yourself, you definitely can. I would recommend that if you are making any nuts, seeds, or legumes that are dried beforehand, I would definitely recommend soaking them at least a minimum of 8 hours, because you want to remove the phytic acid. So phytic acid sits on the outside of most of our nuts, seeds, and legumes, and if you don't remove that, so phytic acid is actually a mineral inhibitor. So what it does is when we consume it, which is, you have a handful of almonds, or you have a handful of other nuts, our body actually, the nuts and seeds themselves actually release the phytic acid, and phytic acid is not recognized by, our body recognizes it, and it binds with other things like minerals, like zinc, calcium especially is a number one that we need to be careful of. If you're just having a handful of nuts here and there, you should definitely be soaking them. Or the other way to remove the phytic acid is to cook them off lightly, so in the oven, on a low heat, or in a frying pan, just to shallow fry them off. How we looking? Might be stuck. No, we might have luck. We'll wait for it for a touch longer. I can do this one while we wait. So you definitely want to, if you are using nuts, seeds, or legumes straight dried, then definitely soak them 24 hours. You'll notice once you've soaked them, they have this grey water, and that's a lot of the phytic acid being removed. Flush it all out. Rinse them another 3 times to remove all of the excess phytic acid that's hanging around, and then you can consume them if you like. If you're wanting them to then be dry, say nuts per se, then just pop them into the oven on a tea towel at a low heat, probably about 80 to 100 degrees, and that'll just bring them back to the texture that you normally use to them being dry. Otherwise, if you don't want to do it that way, chuck it straight into the oven, dry them out, kill all the phytic acid itself that way.
Kombu seaweed helps with cooking lentils
Yes,
and beans.
yeah, absolutely.
For the fatty acid business.
Yeah,
Kombu
absolutely.
seaweed.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up.
By the way, roasted, it's all good.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking the date that it was processed, because a lot of the stuff, they say the shelf life is perfectly fine, but in actual fact, once we've actually gone to purchase them and we're consuming them, we're still pretty much consuming the phytic acid, or that they've probably gone rancid and we've not realised. And rancidity is something you definitely want to stay away from. I had some pine nuts, just a packet of pine nuts, didn't know anything about phytic acid or any of that information, and I ate them, and it wasn't until probably about a week later I started getting this strange taste in the back of my throat, and it tasted metallic. And I thought, what the heck is this? So I went to the doctor and got it checked out, and they asked what have I eaten over the last few days, week. And I told them that I had some pine nuts, and they said, oh, they were probably rancid. So what happens is with rancidity, with any nuts, seeds, or legumes, once they're rancid and you consume them, they sit in your tummy and they actually start losing spores. And I had this for about just over a month. This taste of metal in the back of my mouth. Whatever I drank, whatever I ate, even if it was hot or strong or spiced food, would not clear it. It just had to die itself and then be passed. So I definitely recommend, if you do get a hint of a taste of something like that, where it tastes a bit unsure, you smell it, it smells a bit strange, especially with nuts, because we buy nuts so easily from supermarkets. People are buying peanuts and almonds and other fruits and nuts and thinking, yeah, it's fine, it's healthy. But you've got to do a little bit more research to make sure you know where it's sourced from. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that's sourced from China ends up being quite rancid. I'm not sure of the way that they process it, or because it's been sitting for long before we actually get the product. So just keep an eye for that. If it does say made in China, just check when it was processed. Otherwise, do be very careful. You don't want to end up having what I had. not the best one. Anyway, let's see how this waffle is going on. Smells alright. Oh, it's a bit sticky. It's a bit sticky. It's okay. And maybe use the scissors to get it off. Don't do this at home. It's just because of the banana. The banana's stuck a little bit into this, but otherwise it's looking pretty delicious.
Is it easy to handle?
It'll be-
When it cools down?
It will be, yeah, it will be easy to handle. It's just, right now it's a little bit hot, so I think we'll just let it just sit and turn it off. If we didn't add the bananas, then obviously it would have come out as well. But with any sort of fruits, with say a waffle iron, they will start to get stuck, even if you put a little bit of protein or oil or anything on there. So I'd probably recommend maybe we do that after or mash them or process them so that they're completely smooth and waffle. But we'll leave it, and then once it's ready, we can pull it out and everyone can have a little try if you want. And then we've still got the thread going on here. Cool, we'll leave that to go too. Alrighty, well we've got about 10 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask about what we've done today, or any other questions in regards to your own journey in gluten-free and vegan? No? Cool, I'll talk more then. So my business partner and I have looked at setting up another space here in town in Whangarei called Kariawa, the Agua Garden. It's on Bank Street. We'll be opening 1st of December. It's a wellness and well-being space. Tikanga consider it and esoteric arts consider it, trying to focus more on universal healing and universal health within our town. It's something I've never seen anywhere else before, it's most especially in Whangarei. And I feel like within Palate we have so many practitioners and so many passionate people out there, but they have no hub, no home to call their own to be able to set themselves up. So we'll have seafood here at the space as well on the ground level. So it's 3 levels. The ground level is retail space. The second level is therapy rooms. And the top level is group work. So meditation, yoga, breath work, hui, any form of meeting, workshops. So we'll be doing workshops out of there as well. And with the therapy rooms, so we're wanting to cover all areas, as I mentioned, of universal healing. So we're looking at psychological and emotional healing through behavioral psychologists and life coaches, esoteric arts, so cards and crystal healing, energy healing, and then the other side is physical healing, obviously, so massage and physical body treatment. So if you do get a chance and you're here 1 December, do pop by and come and see us. Otherwise, do come and see us at John Street, at 50A John Street at Wholesome Collective, and come and try all our delicious goodies. Otherwise, we do have a store here today, just around, as you go out to the main floor, if you go to your hard left by the stairs, we'll be there all day today. And we've got some amazing, delicious curry for you, including some fritters and some waffles. So if you don't get a chance to try these ones, which have turned out pretty alright, then you can come and have some delicious ones that turn out good. Anyway, I think that's about all of it. I'm just going to, did that go around?
No.
Oh, it's going around, cool. So they're just passing that around now. So if you want to pop your email down, if you want any of the recipes today, if you have any questions about anything else, about gluten-free, about veganism, do get in contact. And that's pretty much us for today. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.